that already. Yeah, let me see if we have some responses on that. Probably I'll start with sharing with that and then we'll go ahead. So for people who have just recently joined, on the chat window, there is a link, a quick question about by when you would own EV. So we could give you a quick idea of doing an adoption curve just with the preferences or choices, not with the real data. Okay, so looks like we so we've got some responses. I'm sure by the end of the core session we will have more. So like we guessed, we've got these innovators and early adopters. So in 2021 itself, someone is going to buy an EV electric car. By 2025, majority of the people would have owned an electric car. So that is really good. Just like we said, acceleration. So adoption is going to be fairly high. In 2030, these are our late majority people who would buy a car purely based on influence and imitation of what people are doing. And we've got no laggards in this space, which makes sense. Most of the people at this intellect are typically they are enthusiastic about new things, and they're not going to wait till the tech evolves or matures so much. Great. So this is another example of how you might do a bit of a market survey, if you will. If you're launching a new product, you could do a market survey like this, and then it can help you strategize on some of your decisions. Cool. So this was a quick concept that we learned, all of us together, on the S curve, and we also talked about theory of disruption and its applications to EV space. In the session 2, we are going to focus on organization structures for innovation. And you would see that most of the firms, big companies, it's not that they're not able to innovate because of people. Trust me, they have some of the most talented people that are available in the industry. But still, it's the startups that are able to disrupt these firms with their solutions. How does that happen? We're going to touch upon that a little bit, and how, as budding entrepreneurs, how can you avoid yourself to fall in that trap as you scale? Because once you are exploring products, exploring solutions, you're not so much worried about scaling. You're actually being mostly worried about, do I have the right product, and then I'll scale later. So when you scale, organization structures are going to come into picture a lot. As you would scale and your product comes into the acceleration phase, you would do a lot of marketing campaign, marketing communication about value proposition, why your customers should buy your product, right? That is the value proposition. If you are making batteries, for example, why a EV maker like Tata should buy batteries from you? What value proposition do you have? And then what kind of business models could you have for your startup? That is something that we would touch upon a bit. Again, coming to our lens of innovation that we saw in our first session, where we have 3 things. Just to revise: creativity, execution, and commercialization. The aspect of commercialization comes about the business models, right? That helps us in making our product commercializable. Cool. So with that, let's do our session 2 with these 2 topics as our main areas. Again, I'm gonna be requesting you people to please engage with me through the chat window. So if you have any questions, Use that if you want to comment something. And if I'm asking a question, please respond on the chat window. That helps me a lot in understanding the rhythm of the course. Okay, so first thing, let me flash a slide in front of you. A few brands: Nokia, IBM, Kodak, Blockbuster, AT&T. What story do they tell? When you see these brands, probably there are more that I could have put, but there is a story about these brands. What story do they tell? Can you use your chat window to put a few answers, please? What story do these brands tell you? Just by the face of it. Come on, let's flow some answers. So there's an answer: Nokia and Kodak didn't adapt as per the latest innovation. Okay. I'm waiting for more. Nokia not updated with customer mind. Let's flow some more. Only two so far. Please put your thoughts on the chat window. What stories do these brands tell? Kodak was the face of early photography. Okay. IBM changed its business model from brick and mortar to software services. They did for computers, yes. Great. So again, thank you for engaging. I think this makes it even more interesting. Knowing thoughts that don't know about these, it's really good. So one thing that's common. If you're hearing some background noise, please pardon me. There is some construction work going on. Am I audible, Adarsh? Is it clear or a lot of noise?
You're audible. You're audible.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So something that's very common about these brands is that all of these brands at a point in time have struggled managing innovation in their company. All these brands have awesome people, have always had awesome people in their teams, working for their R&D departments were full with people from the top-notch talent, colleges, institutes, not just in India, but even outside India, top universities they hire from. And at a point in time, they've really fallen to the wave of disruption. And that's why I said, there's something common about these brands. Very interesting story about Blockbuster. Today, a lot of us, it has become a verb. We do Netflix, right? It has become a verb now. There was a time when Netflix founder, went to Blockbuster to be bought, and Blockbuster denied it. So now that Blockbuster probably doesn't exist anymore. The founders or the CEO of Blockbuster would, in hindsight, be thinking about that. What if they bought Netflix then? But again, that's just one about Blockbuster. There are very similar stories about Nokia, Kodak. How Kodak, very interesting thing. Digital photography was sort of invented in a way by Kodak. The first few patents of digital photography came from Kodak. Top-notch talent, but they couldn't really do anything in digital photography. In fact, they got succumbed to the market that evolved with digital photography. They could not adapt. So. And like I said, it's not because of talent. It's not because they didn't want to innovate. Every big company wants to innovate, but there is something that they struggled with, that is managing innovation. And a lot of case studies, and what I'm referring to is the Harvard Business case study that I took up, during my MBA at the ISP, where we were taught that the innovation structures of these organizations were the main contributing factor as to how the company was organized to innovate. And when we say organize, it's all about how do you group people, Mr. Manjunath yesterday showed how Tesla is organized. There is a CEO and there are, chief product officers, chief technology officers, and so on and so forth. But I'm going to touch upon a little basics on why organization structure is so important, and we'll learn from these examples. And as budding entrepreneurs, take these lessons and apply it to your startups, or even in future when you have your startup. Please, apply them, just to beware of something that you should not fail around. So let's go one question back. We said that these firms, they struggled with managing innovation, because at a point in time, innovation became a dilemma for these companies. And that's amazing. It's like, we keep innovating. How can innovation be a dilemma? Companies keep innovating always. So let's look at what I'm going to do is I'll first introduce you to a framework, again, a lens through which you can see the world, how companies innovate. So there's a very sort of simple XY plot. The Y-axis is the market. That means the people, the customers that buy your product. The X-axis is types of innovation. Okay, so on the market, you have really two types. You have existing market. That means your company is serving some specific people. That's your existing market. There is a new market, which is like, you don't know yet. There is a big group of people that's not buying your product. That's a new market for you, that you want to venture into. Innovations typically could be in sort of three categories: incremental, continuous innovations that keep happening; competence enhancing, remember; architectural, that kind of is not so incremental, but at the same time, it's not so competence destroying also. It's like you change the architecture, you come up with new platforms, as you innovate. And then the third type of innovation is discontinuous. It's like it's big, sort of breakthrough innovations that completely change they overturn the concept itself. Mental models related to that specific innovation are completely different. So now let's highlight a zone. I call this as a zone of exploitation. What does this really mean is companies, they keep continuously innovating incrementally and even architecturally, and they cater to most of the existing market, and sometimes even some part of the new market when people start adopting their solutions, right? So this strategy, this is an innovation strategy. It's called exploitation. I'll ask you guys to think about the dominant design concept. So once you reach a dominant design, what you do is you don't change that design a lot. You keep small increments, you keep doing on that, and you keep selling it to people. You keep getting more and more customers, and you really are exploiting sort of that innovation that you've done so far. Most of the incumbents have exploitation as their biggest innovation strategy. Why? Because it helps you mint money. There's a certainty, right? You already have an existing market. There's a certainty that if you innovate, people are going to buy your product. There is a great certainty. Incremental and architectural innovations do not cost your company of the competence that you have. With existing knowledge, with existing skills, you're able to do something more. Isn't that an awesome state to be in? Like, you don't have to lay off people, hire new people, first thing. You don't have to change your supply chain models. So your cost structures are balanced. At the same time, you're able to supply your existing customers. You're able to serve their needs. They pay you really well. And with that money, you're profitable, you're high, you're growing, your shareholders are happy, and people who have invested in you are happy. So they like, hey, keep going, let's make that progress. That is the story of incumbents. That's what most of the incumbents do. But there's a very interesting concept about discontinuous, which is, the competence enhancing, competence destroying innovations, right? They are discontinuous in the way that they will not work with the mental models that you have worked with so far. Your skills will be very different. Your platforms that you have produced so far will not help. At the same time, there is a huge uncertainty that will you be able to capture this new market? You have no idea, right? That innovation strategy is called exploration. right? So an exploration is really about um, focusing on newer strategies, newer business models that you haven't tried out before here, and you don't want to try here because you might lose customers to your competitors, right? You don't want to do that. So it's a very interesting dilemma, and that's why it's a dilemma, because if you are a firm who has employed 10,000 people across, you're a big MNC, and you are imagine you are the CEO of that firm, and you're asked, will you do exploitation or will you do exploration? And you're going to be in a big dilemma because if you do exploitation, you're feeding 10,000 people their salary, right? You don't want to lose your talent. If you do exploration, you're moving shareholders' money into a gray area where they have no idea if there is an ROI on that money, because you're trying new markets, you're trying very discontinuous innovations. This is, my friends, a big dilemma for all the incumbents in all the industries. And Professor Clayton Christensen lays out this dilemma in a very awesome way in his book, The Innovator's Dilemma. So please, buy a copy of that book, and very interesting stories about. So as you know, by nature of it, it seems that if you were the CEO of the company, you were in the same dilemma. So the question then comes is that, okay, how do we resolve this dilemma? Fine, we understand that there's a challenge. How do we, resolve this so that we can still explore and exploit? And that's where the structures come into picture. It seems that with those existing structures that you have, because you have to, feed people salary and all, you cannot do that. So there is a concept in innovation that is called ambidexterity. So what ambidexterity is about? It is about balancing exploitation and exploration in an incumbent firm. Now that's amazing, right? I mean, it's isn't it very basic common sense that you do both? But this common sense is so difficult that this is where really companies struggle. That how can we do both? How can we balance exploitation, where our business models, we know exactly how do we make money, how do we sell products, how our supply chain works. We want to do that. We want to keep doing that. Now you're asking me that you do also explore, where I have no idea of new markets. I don't know what my strategy will be. I don't know if I will be able to be successfully come up with a discontinuous innovation. So when we say balancing, it all depends on the company's current position as well. Where are you placed in the market? Do you have that much of money to play around, the shareholders' money to play around that? And that's why you would see the trend, and I'm sure this is going to be the trend in the EV space as well. I'm talking about a trend in the retail space. Tata, is big time, heavily invested big time into retail shops, and big shops. They tied up with so many other companies as well. Recently, Tata acquired Big Basket, which is awesome firm. You could call it as a startup, but actually it's a really big company now. Again, started a few years back. Not that it has a history of decades and all that. But it explored something, and the new model of delivering products to someone's doorstep at very competitive costs, right? So it's doing two things. One is it gives you discounts on the products that already have low margin, and second is it delivers them at your doorstep. Sometimes we would wonder that how these companies make money, and in fact they don't. If you see their balance sheets, they incur huge losses. And I'll bring this example to the EV space, that it seems that when you move from typical brick and mortar strategies to online shopping, online strategies, you would be surprised that your business model is really not the same. You don't make money by selling products. You make money by cross-selling. So when Big Basket, owns you as a customer, it owns your data, you do a lot of cross-selling to this customer. So if someone has an awesome, consistent pattern of buying groceries, and they can very easily forecast your incomes, they can very easily forecast or predict your living styles and things like that, and they can target you with very specific solutions. It can be insurance, it can be any other plans. It could be big basket recommending you to buy a different sort of model or a car as well. Trust me, that's the future. So their business model changes. It's no more the way they make money from selling you the products. I want to bring this example to the electronic vehicle industry as well, that if you are looking for something discontinuous, the business models cannot be the same. The business models cannot be making money by just selling vehicles and doing this. You will have to do more. Telematics is something new that is emerging. On your mobile app, you're able to do a bite test. We used to call this in the aircraft days, in my experience, the built-in equipment testing. You can test your car thoroughly with your mobile. And imagine someone is going to come and tell you that, hey, look, are you willing to pay an extra 1,000 rupees per month because you can test your car with just your mobile? Oh yes, I will pay for it, because it gives me more confidence on my EV that the battery is not going to fall dead. I've tested it thoroughly before I went for the ride, a long drive, right? And see, these are the kind of things that companies will have to come up with different business models, not just by subscription, right? Subscription to these services, up over the air updates. Do you want a latest update? It helps you tell how much more your range is if you go on off-road, because right now it only tells me how much more can I go. It doesn't tell me on a highway or on an off-road, right? So do you want to upgrade the service? It comes at 100 rupees per month, and I'm like, yeah, give me that service because I do off-roads. So these are some examples of strategy, orientation, exploration that you as budding entrepreneurs or even big firms are looking at, because the way they would make money will be different. I want to play a video to all of you about a company, Danfoss. You might have heard about it. Danfoss is a pretty big firm. They have, I won't say nailed it, but they have set a great example of how, so they manufacture steering units. Danfoss is a company who manufactures steering units. Steering units are also going through big transformation. If you look at, from hydraulically powered to electrically powered steering units, and a lot of semiconductor is being used in the way they manufacture it. So in a way, good transformation, not fully discontinuous or competence destroying, but something that changes their mental model, something that the way that they look at their industry. So let me play that, and then we'll talk about it a little more. I'll do a quick audio check as well. So let me know if you're able to view this. Okay, was the audio there? Yes, all right, cool. Awesome, thank you. Let's enjoy this.
For us is the ability to deal with both a very traditional business. We have businesses with very long history in Danfoss. In my division, we have some of the first hydraulic product that Danfoss created are in my division, like the power steering, the orbital motors. And those are well delivering, but still really with traditional factories, traditional engineering processes, and so on, long history. On the other side, really, we have a highly innovative product or technologies, and we created a few years ago, now it's 3 years ago, a business unit which is consolidated those kind of steering technology for auto guidance. Basically, this is also with what will allow the future of self-autonomous drive. And this is as a self-managed organization. So it's organized like many of the famous startups in Silicon Valley and so on, but which of course it requires a completely different setup and a completely different way of manage it, especially within a multinational. It's very unusual that those kind of self-organized team and companies fit in a multinational. The multinational has to be very flexible, has to be ambidextrous, so capable to run traditional business and at the same time highly innovative organization with no formal organization, with very fluid roles. In our case, no job titles, no predefined roles and responsibilities, but more changing according to the need of the moment, which is not something which requires less processes, but even more processes to manage it if you think about it, but a completely different approach.
What's happening? Just give me a quick minute, please. All right, great. Hope you enjoyed that video. So that video, in a way summarizes the success story of Danfoss as to how they evolved from something doing with a big legacy, all hydraulic steering units, for example, for bigger vehicles, but at the same time they're also a suppliers for smaller vehicles, and they wanted to do it in a very different, cost-effective way, or by using electronic steering systems. So the way he explains, you saw that, right, that they had to come up with a new business unit. And that's what really ambidextrous organizations do, is that they balance this dilemma by under the CEO's head, they put a new business unit. And business unit, trust me, is like, it runs in a way that it has its own P&L, profit and loss things, so that they are not relying on the other businesses units profits for burning. So they actually have to have their own profits, profit and loss. So one big sort of management aspect that I wanted this audience to know about is that when an MNC does that a lot, that means have a separate business unit for this that does innovative products, have another business unit that keeps doing the exploitation. There's a concept that comes in as cannibalization. So what it really means is that the innovative products that your firm is producing in this one business unit is going to cannibalize, eat the market of the other products that you have been doing in your legacy way. Now, now, how can this happen that you have two branches in an organization? One branch is eating the market of the other, right? So this is another sort of big dilemma that firms have is, okay, you know what, I'm going to have a separate business unit. It'll help me innovate because these people are separated out. They have very different mindset, awesome people. But now they are eating into the market that I have of my existing products, right? And sometimes this makes me wonder that if Tata, so I read a bit about Tata. Tata is still not into being a fully ambidextrous organization. They're still experimenting, and what is helping Tata for now, for example, is a very is their ability to segment out the specific set of customers that would buy a EV. So they're able to do it very successfully, and we're going to take exactly nexon-ev's example on value proposition when we come to that topic. But you would be surprised that it's not going to last long, because eventually your customers will overlap with the customers of a normal IC engine. So pricing nexon-ev at about, I think, 14 or 15 lakhs. What you've done is you have said that, look, it's not for maybe the people who were looking for a petrol vehicle, because now it's much overpriced than that, right? So they said it's a different set of people. You can't afford it as a middle or a lower middle people. So for now, it doesn't cannibalize your Nexon original. You're happy about it. But what's going to happen with time? With time, technology is going to evolve. Prices of batteries and stuff that is engaged in there is going to come down because demand will increase. So when that happens, now you have overlapped. So if I go for buying a Nexon, I see at the same price there's an EV, and because it meets my needs very well. I don't go long trips. I would go and buy a EV. And what will happen to the sales of actual Nexon petrol vehicles or diesel vehicles? It's going to fall down. So that's the phenomenon of cannibalization. That happens a lot when companies go ambidextrous, and that is why I think what it might help them, or probably is helping them, is reduced product life cycle durations for these products. These products, their life cycle is not more than about 4 or 5 years. If you see these days, right, a car comes within the next 3 or 4 years, it's out, and there's a new car. And so fortunately, you could say that, hey, Tata is going to wait for 3 years, maybe beat some or get some hit on the losses for the Nexon on those 2 years, but it has made enough money in the beginning itself so that it can compensate for those losses later. But cannibalization, if the Tata guys continue to go this model, they will hit big losses, right? But if they come up with a roadmap that they would stop manufacturing any kind of IC engine cars by, let's say, 2035, then it makes a lot of sense, because then they can put all their money right now on EV space, bring a lot of models that would cannibalize, eat up the market of IC engines. And that process in management is called disrupting yourself, so that no other firm comes and disrupts you and your business processes. You disrupt processes for yourself. And that's amazing, because it's like you bring an axe and hit on your leg. but knowing that it's going to help you in the long run, you take that short-term beating, and that is why, my friends, it's so difficult for big corporates to take that X and hit it on your leg, that thinking I'm going to disrupt myself. You would see rare stories of incumbents of big firms doing that. And that's where, you all pitch in, because you are budding entrepreneurs. You're going to create entrepreneurs in our country, who will be able to, who do not have that, for lack of better words, who do not have that baggage of, you don't carry a baggage. You can take good risks. You can come up with awesome products. You can sell yourself to big firms, make good amount of money, and continue to innovate that ways. So this is, and the book by Professor Clayton explains it really well, as well. Some questions that come in the EV space as we talk about this, that will the firms be able to innovate with the same or similar structures? We see now it's very difficult, right? They would have to change their way they're organized. How can exploration and exploitation go hand in hand in a firm? A firm like Tesla is only doing exploitation, so they can keep doing it, and they have huge money, very deep pockets. They can continue to invest and explore, but Tata's may not go that way. Is it always an advantage that startups will have? What do you folks think? Is an advantage that startups will keep enjoying? Yes or no on the chat window? Yes, yeah. So that makes startups even an interesting place to be in, in the future, because of the opportunities that exist in this industry. So very true. Okay, so that was it. Let me go to our next topic, which is about value proposition. So we all learned, what did we learn really is these 3 or 4 questions that comes to mind about EV space is what firms would have to do as they innovate in EV. They cannot run with the same structures. They can do it in short term, but it's going to get them some beating in the long term. They would have to disrupt themselves. So let's see which firms are able to take those big decisions of disrupting themselves by, killing their own processes, their own process change and all that. Okay, cool. So with that, I just want to do a quick check on the speed. Are you people okay with the way we are going? A quick yes or no. Anything you want me to slow down? Okay, so I'm getting a yes, which I'm assuming that I think we are good with the speed. Cool. Again, thank you for engaging. This is really interesting as we learn these concepts together. So the next topic that we come to is about value proposition. What makes multiple innovations successful, as we have learned by so far, is the new business models that you will have. You cannot be successful with your old business models. We have great examples in retail industry. We have great examples in insurance industry. Insurance, for example, insurance companies, as we all know, don't make money by your money, by the premiums that you make. They don't make money with that. They make money by investing your money into some other firms that make money for them. So that's a business model for them. And and when we run to the business model canvas, you would see a very interesting thing, that how companies make money sometimes is very different than how a customer perceives them that they make money. So that's going to be very true for electronic vehicles industry as well. Okay, so let's, as we switch into the new module, I want to understand that what are some key questions that come to our mind. So let's go through a few. How do I ideate for new products or solutions? So I am a entrepreneurial spirit person. How do I come up with ideas? That is something that as people in the academics, it really is intriguing. Sorry. And then how do you design human-centric solutions in EV space? Because the interactions between human and machine have increased multifold. Earlier, there used to be a few buttons and you would do that and you would drive your vehicle. Now it's like you're interfacing not on just a vehicle. You have a mobile app, you have a website, you go there and you're interfacing so many places. So how that experience can be made human-centric? How do I know if, as an entrepreneur, I'm defining the right problem? This is again, very challenging task, by the way, that are we solving the right problem? Sometimes, and you would see a lot of startups that fail because they have hit upon a wrong problem. They felt this was the problem to be solved, and then they saw there were no customers. How do I conclude if I solve the problem? So what feedback mechanisms can you bring in that say that, hey, you've done it in a way? And as an entrepreneur, very important, how do I increase my chances of success? Have you guys heard about this saying? And that's pretty backed up by data, that only less than 1% of startups, 1% of startups actually become successful. And when I say successful, doesn't mean that they make big companies. It means that they get sold and they make a lot of money. Others, they just shut down. They either get sold for very less money or just get drowned. So how do I increase my chances? And I think as faculty members who are producing entrepreneurs for this country, you would be really excited to learn a few about some frameworks, and there are many more that we could talk about, but I've chosen a few that we can rely upon. All right, so let's go one by one. First, let's talk about value. How do I communicate and define value? How do I, if I have a product, how do I go campaigning or communication about it, right? And sometimes it's also about, before even I make a product, how do I test it? So these days, in the lean eco startup system, you actually can test your product without having nothing, really nothing at your hand, and the power of software makes it happen, and the power of interviewing people makes it happen. That so there are multiple I think platforms. Kickstarter is probably one that lets you advertise about your products even though you have nothing, and figure out if people are interested. So what I've done is, again, not endorsing Tata so much, but I really like Indian company trying to disrupt the industry, so I'm going to take examples from there. We'll take an example of nexon-ev. Will it define success in the Indian mass car segment? Now, this is interesting because they want to do this. I mean, this is their sort of, you could call it as a mission, that there are so many brands. We have MNC brands in India, but they want to be the Indian brand that comes to this market, mass segment cars. So let's so there are really multiple frameworks that you would find about value, defining value. I'm going to specifically introduce you to a framework which is called Value Proposition Canvas. It's from it was defined by the firm Strategizer. You could go on web and there are multiple resources that you would find. That is why I'm introducing that is because I really see that it captures a holistic picture, hits upon the key concepts of design thinking. And if you're, budding entrepreneur trying to come up with new products and services, I would heavily recommend that you visit Strategizer company's website and see what resources they have about business models and value proposition. I'm going to introduce only two: value proposition and the business model generation, using their models. So as we look at the Nexon market, I want to kind of give you an example. So let's say you are someone in the marketing group of a company, and they tell you, hey, Jitendra, go figure out why people buy nexon-ev. Okay, so I'm gonna, and let's say you're a competitor, right? So you want to understand why people are buying competitors' product. So I go and sit in the front of the showroom and I keep waiting, and then someone comes and he or she books a EV, and I immediately go to him or her and I ask a question about their demographics. What do you do? What's your profession? Why did you buy that car? And she might say, yeah, I liked it, and so on and so forth. And then I keep collecting this data. So this is called one very conventional way of collecting data, that you look at demographics and then you kind of do a statistical study. Imagine you're an awesome person at stats and you're going to say, hey, look, people, my leaders, people between the age of 25 and 35 can buy EVs. Okay, so you know who to target. Second, you would say is people who do not have big families can buy EVs because their EVs are typically compact in design and less capacity, who don't go long trips and so on and so forth. So this is a very conventional way of looking at why people buy certain products. There is another concept that Professor Clayton introduces in his another book, which is, I think, Competing Against Luck. That's the title of the book. And I really like that concept of, which is, he calls it as jobs to be done theory, or jobs theory. So he says that people don't buy products because they are between 25 and 40, because they have smaller families, because they like design. These are just some choices that they do. They buy products because they have certain jobs in their lives that they hire that product to do. Now that's amazing, because it's a very different way of thinking about why do people hire or buy a product. One is it's purely internal, which is, okay, this is my demographics and I'm young, so I want to buy a EV and so on and so forth. But that's not true. If you go a little deeper and you try to understand what jobs I have in my life which I want to achieve with that EV, there is a good chance that you can come up with a true value proposition for your product. So we're going to use this jobs to be done theory as in this exercise that we do. We're going to use that concept. We are not going to use the concept of the demographics and asking people just questions on why did you buy and so on and so forth. So let me introduce this to you. It's called a value proposition model, or value proposition canvas. There are two key elements to this. The first key element to this is a customer profile. What does a customer profile mean? It's really about these three questions that you see on the left here. First is answering this question: what customers are trying to get done in their work and in their lives? This is really the jobs that someone wants to get done in their lives. Why do you buy a newspaper? You buy it because you're getting bored and you want to gain knowledge. Sometimes you're just reading a newspaper on the train because you're getting bored, you want to have a good time pass, right? The same job today gets done by a mobile, right? Because people are now browsing stuff through their cell phones. So jobs remain the same. The way the jobs are done get changed. So it's very interesting when you say I'm a innovator, you got to be careful about one thing, that jobs always are there. What changes is the way the jobs are done. Let's look an example of FedEx or any other courier companies. They used to earlier supply products using very conventional old means earlier, right? There used to be vehicles that were not of that range, so they would use even bullock carts and so on and so forth, horses, and that's all you see is the means to do the job has changed. Now they use it through planes. I mean, they ship it through aeroplane, right? But the jobs are still the same: move products from A to B. So what innovators do is they focus on the jobs. They don't focus on how they are getting done. That's the second story. But first you focus on is what are the jobs that are to be done. Second question is, when those jobs are being done, what are some bad outcomes, risks, or obstacles that are related to those customer jobs? That in this diagram, in this picture, you see is the pains listed here, right? That what pains do your customer go through when they do those jobs? And second is, the third question really is, what are the expected benefits that customers are seeking? So this is your gains. That means, what do you gain when you do your job? What gains are you seeking? For example, if I am the job that I'm doing is I'm sort of reading a newspaper for gaining knowledge, let's say. So gaining knowledge is the job that I'm hiring the newspaper for. What could be a gain in that? A gain could be that maybe I get something. I get a section in the newspaper which is named interesting facts, and something that I wasn't expecting, but I got it, and it helps me gain my knowledge better than not just by reading political news and all that. I got some interesting facts. So interesting facts becomes a gain in that job to be done. A pain could be that it was very windy, and in the train it sometimes becomes windy. Imagine you're traveling in a sleeper class. People have their windows open, and you're not able to read the newspaper at all. So it's a pain that very difficult to read newspaper in a train if sitting in a sleeper class. That could be a pain. So when you do this exercise, it's the exercise of customer profiling. You focus on three key types of jobs. People hire products for functional jobs. That means the real functions that they do. There is always an emotional touch to it as well. That I hire certain products because it has an emotion touch. Some people, they buy iPhones because it has got a status associated with it. They connect themselves to that status, that brand. That's an emotional job. It's not an Android phone does the same functional job, but it cannot do that emotional job that an iPhone does to me. And same way social, what other people see you as when you have an Apple in your hand, Apple product in your, how other people see you as, right? That's your social job as well. You won't believe that there are so many companies that are able to sell their products not by competing on functional value. Every product almost does the functional job well. Some do emotional fairly better, and some do social even better. So that's how you differentiate. And as you compete in EV space, functional can be a competitive space for some time. Trust me. Once you have hit a dominant design and the electric motors have reached their saturation stabilization time, the batteries have reached their stabilization time, you are competing on emotional and social. So you got to figure out that what would be that timeline when you can start thinking about how you do something better on emotional. So we're going to take this example of, and I will take this example first, and then I'm going to ask you people to engage with me on chat. Okay. So here is a first attempt that I've made, that for someone who is willing to buy a Tata Nexon EV, his demographic could be, he could be an upper middle class guy, at least 20 lakhs a year, because the price of the car is 14 lakhs. So he definitely needs to have earned more than that in a year. What are different jobs that this person is going to hire that EV for? And when I say hire, you could assume buy. Commute, that's commute to work is one job that he wants to get done, right? Occasional long distance trips. This person doesn't go a regular long distance trip or something, occasional. Reduce commute expenses. Maybe that's a job he wants to get done because probably the it gets very expensive with the petrol increasing prices. Reduce emission, that's a job that he wants to do. Maybe he's a very, very environment friendly and environment conscious person, so that's a job he wants to do. He also wants to convey an image that, look, this person really cares for the environment. Maybe, and this is a perfect example of an emotional or a social job where you want to hire people for hire a specific product or a service. Now let's engage on chat. I need your help with identifying when someone is trying to do these jobs with a Tata Nexon EV, what could be potential pains? What could be potential challenges that this person or this potential customer is going to face when he or she is doing that job with Tata Nexon EV or any other product as well? What are the pains that you see? Please put something on the chat window. Okay, very good. I got a first answer. Charging stations. Plan distance for a trip. Yes. How do you know how far I can go? One big potential pain, charging point. Yes, absolutely. Load to carry. Yes, if you're going for a bit of a long trip, even if it's occasional, you want to be able to carry load. So that could be a pain point because you reduce the performance in terms of the range if you make it more heavy. Very, very good examples. Thank you for sharing this. So these are some potential pains. That's the next exercise that you really do. You put all the customer pains in the pains thing. Again, this is just an example. There could be more. You could be worried about a dead battery in between. It's like the battery was showing 80%, and then I saw it suddenly declining because maybe something went wrong, a short circuit happened and it drained the battery or something like that. That could be a pain. A time to charge. So imagine that there were charging stations, but it took an hour for me to charge. So what do I do in that 1 hour? That's a pain as well. performance, there's a lot that is being said about EVs, but how do they perform on off-road, for example? That could be a pain, because I'm going to a hilly area, there's going to be good roads, there's going to be bad roads, so that could be a pain like that. And again, these pains could be different for customers as well. Different customers. Maintenance cost, very well, there is a dearth of EV skilled people, so even if there are few skilled people, they're going to charge you more for the same job. So that's absolutely a good point as well. That could be another pain. Now let's comment on what are the potential gains that you're looking for when you're doing the job, these jobs that you've listed, that the commute, trip with family, emission, image. When you do these jobs, what are the potential gains that you're expecting? Okay, so reduced commute expenses. Okay, service for vehicle. Status upgrade to environmental positive. Okay, a few more answers, please. Eco-friendly. Yep, that's a gain that you want. People, I mean, you want to be looked at as an eco-friendly person, right? A different image. So good. That's a gain. Okay, very good. Thank you for engaging. So I just tried to put a few here that some people go with EVs because of their awesome looking design. They love the way, and you can look at, right, because there is no what do you say, I mean, since you don't have an engine that needs a lot of air and all, the radiators design, it gets limited, right? So when you have an IC engine, but now there is no IC engine, you're almost have no limits for designing the car. So that's why you see EVs are very great in our design. Maybe you're a tech person, and when you ride that car for getting this job done, commuting, you want to see a high-end tech dashboard, that's a digital speed and whatnot. Zero emission design, safety, sometimes you need that, right, as a gain, that okay, look, EVs are going to be lighter in weight, so I want to ensure that when I'm speeding on the highway and all, I'm safe. It doesn't roll over or topple on the road itself. So that's another gain that you're looking for. So when you do this is what we call as you have sort of understood a customer profile. Now, by the way, a customer profile is not done sitting on the desk. First thing, a customer profile is done when you are actually either sitting with the person who is the real customer when he or she is driving a car. So you understand what he or she is going through as pains. And when you talk and interview a person, you get to understand what he or she is expecting as gains. Even though I've put this example as my thoughts, these are never your thoughts. These are always customers' thoughts when they are in the playground. They're not when the customer is sitting with you on sofa. Trust me, that that is going to kill the human-centric aspect of it. When a person is really doing the job, observing the person in that situation is one of the key aspects of design thinking. And if we are able to do that really well, and I'll tell you that even though I've heard it from my colleagues in Tata, but a few engineers or marketing people from Tata have actually spent time on trucks with truck drivers over 300, 400 kilometers drive to understand what pain points does a driver have, and how can they design trucks that are going to alleviate those pain points. So that's the kind of engagement you need to do when you're looking for products in the EV space. I mean, talk to people not on their sofa sets, but talk to people when they are really doing the job, either driving or if any other job that they are doing. Talk to people at that time. So this is just a thought that I thought I should bring as well. Now, next, okay, what do you do once you've done this is, because this is a lot, and when you do it real, in the real life situation, it will be a lot. So what you do is you really identify what matters the most to the customer. Everything matters, because that's how they are able to do their jobs better. But what matters them the most, and that's what you do, a prioritization of what customer cares more as compared to the other. And it's very difficult. If you ask me, hey, do you imagine I was the customer, and do you care for charging stations more than dead battery? As I would be like, I don't know, I care for both, right? So you cannot do it unless you use some very powerful tools. And one of the tools that I'm highlighting here is conjoint analysis. Conjoint analysis is a powerful tool for people, researchers, to identify people's preferences. And the good thing about this is that you infer those results. It's not that the customer tells you what is more important to me. The customer makes certain choices, and with those choices, you infer mathematically that what this person cares more about. Okay, and imagine doing it for a sufficient good number of customers so that the profile that you have built represents a market. That is going to be another big Herculean task. So it's not easy. When you are doing a startup or trying to come up with a product, trust me, if you don't do all this due diligence with respect to value, there is a high chance that you may be unsuccessful. But if you've done this job with such a due diligence, with good number of people that represent a sort of a good market, you have done, you have increased your chances of success. You have increased your chances. How will you differentiate? You could not, you may not have to do this for big products like cars. You can do it even for smaller products like batteries. You could do for powertrain system only. And trust me, in that case, you don't ask the customer about powertrain. You ask the customer about their experiences when they're driving. What are they facing, right? And then you infer about, okay, what value can I bring in terms of a new powertrain that addresses this? So that is my next part, which is, so far we just learned about customer. We haven't looked in ourselves. What do we have? So once you've done this job, you look into yourself and you're like, hey, what product or service that I am offering, what kind of jobs that the customer has, what kind of fulfillment can I bring in? So that's your first question. What are the products, services, or offerings that I have for which a value proposition is built? So what are you offering? That's the first thing. This comes in this small rectangle here that you see, products and services. How your products and services alleviates customer pains. So it's like you're addressing one-on-one, right? Or you had this pain, how my product is going to address this pain. This is pain relievers, and how your product is going to create those gains for the customer. So really one-on-one, not missing anything that. What does this tell you? One is, something that comes up front is that you have not left gaps in your understanding about customer needs. And when you've done that, you're very powerful. Trust me, your research can be sold for millions if you've done that really, really well. And that's what marketing companies do when they sell reports about EVs, and companies buy it for millions of dollars. Really, that is what it is, that the research that goes in. So so I'm going to again do the same exercise. Now we are looking into our product. Tata Nexon EV is our product. We have looked at the customer. So what products and services Tata Nexon EV offers today? A few, just to list. It offers a 30 kilowatt hour battery. Okay. It offers 8 years warranty on their motor. So that's like amazing, because now I don't have to feel that, no, what if the battery dies in 2 years, and what if the motor, expires in 2 years? Options it has. Oh, it gives me telematics, so I can look at stuff on my mobile. I don't have to worry so much. 95 kilowatt horsepower. So it looks like I can carry about easily 5 to 6 people in my car, and that's pretty good. So these are products and services that are actually offered as a bundle in a way when you buy a Nexon. Now we'll do an exercise on the chat. So what sort of pain relievers Tata Nexon EV offers, you think, to the customers? Can you put some answers? What kind of pain relievers does Tata has? And try to map it, or in your head, try to think about what pains did the customer has in the beginning. What did he have that So one of the pain reliever, someone said, is increasing petrol prices. Okay, that's good. So it reduces your expenses in a way, commute expenses. Warranty is a good pain reliever, because you were so much worried about what if there's a dead battery. Now, hey, here is a warranty here. Good, good. Any other support and breakdown of vehicle? Yes, wide network of workshops, because EVs, right? You need to have that network, otherwise. Safety concern. So good point. Tata Nexon, as you know, is built on the Nexon platform, which is a 5-star rated thing. So that's a good pain reliever. Um, Services maintenance. Service maintenance free. Okay, that could be a good one, that you don't have to pay for your service. There's no engine oil change and all that, so you don't pay for anything. Battery performance, brand, very good. So see, this is a good example of how something can actually lie in two areas. Something can be a pain reliever, something can be a gain also. So a brand can give you an emotional gain. A brand can give you an image, right? At the same time, a brand can give you trust, and that could be a pain as well, that I don't trust certain brands. So good, really good examples. So here is something that I just put up, and you would see a lot of it overlaps with what you said. Charging network. So Tata, I'm not so informative about it, but they are tying up big time with Tata Power. Tata Power is planning to build infrastructure for charging stations throughout the country. And imagine when you go with Tata and you have this sort of thing that, oh, they have a great charging network, and that becomes a great influencer. Faster charging. So Tata claims that you could charge your batteries 80% in 60 minutes. That's pretty good. I mean, 60 minutes, you open a restaurant at a charging station, I have my lunch at the same time, I can charge my battery. Okay, that's cool. Just give me a quick minute. Yeah, sorry for that. Super fast pickup, 0 to 100 in 12 seconds. Not even, I mean, petrol, diesel, none of those cars give you that kind of pickup. So that's like I said, it overlaps in gain as well as in pain. So some people, it's a gain as well. Again, just in the interest of time, some of the gains that it gives you. Awesome design. I've heard that some of this design has been done by the Land Rover team. So you see really good design, first time coming from Tata company. Again, a matter of pride. 5 stars NCAP rating. So safety is a gain. Range is almost 350 kilometers is what Tata is marketing about. So that's also a gain, because earlier you were using it only for daily commute, but now look, you can go for short trips, 300 kilometers to and fro. And if there's a charging station in between, then you can even double up. So now that you've done this exercise for your product, and you've done this exercise for customers, potential profiles, you do an exercise of fitment. And that is really like, have I missed any of these customer profile points with my product value? So this is your value map. This is your customer profile. Does it fit? Have I lost something? Again, there are multiple questions in that. One is, of course, a simple one. That is, have I missed something? Was there a pain point that my product doesn't address? Or was there a gain that the customer was looking for, but I don't provide that? Right? That is first thing that you do. The second thing that you do is you really assess that how better or worse are you doing that as compared to your competition. So, oh, I'm providing charging network. Okay, boy, Hyundai is giving you double the charging pods that Tata has, right? So why would someone buy a Tata product? So that is also a question that you ask, that what is it that I'm doing which is better than competitor? And you may not be good at everything than your competitor, right? You can be good at certain things. That's where you focus your value proposition on. So you don't sing the song of range when you know that your competitor is better than you in that range. You sing the song in front of customer about maybe faster charging, because even though my range is 100 kilometers, boy, it takes 5 minutes for you to charge. Awesome, right? Every 5 minutes, you get another 100 kilometers. What else do you want? So that's how you define a value proposition. And imagine when you will be doing this exercise, Imagine you don't have any product, right? The customer profile is just talking to people, observing, empathizing, right? That's the design thinking core part of it. Value map is what you intend to build, for example. So even before you have a product in the market, you can really know what is it that I am going to focus on as my product. What is it that I'm going to focus on? That is so powerful, because now you've got a direction that this is something that I'm going to do better. This is something I'll do as good as my competitor. And maybe this is something I will not be able to do as good as my competitor, because I want to keep the cost low, right? And because that's a thing, and I don't want to sing a song of that thing, because I want to focus on more what's more better. So once you've done this exercise, this is called a problem solution fit, that you found out customer problems, you found out what your product offers, and you figured out what fits well. Once you've done this, this fitment check, remember this fitment check is done at 3 levels. First is exactly what we saw, which is doing it for multiple people, identifying if your product fits, if your solution fits it. The second fitment is a product market fit. That, what does that really mean is that the exercise that you did with a few people, because you can't do it for the whole market. It's going to take you years. It will be like a double PhD you would do in marketing if you were to do that. So you do it for a few people, see if it's a problem solution fit. Awesome. The next step that you do is a product market fit, which is are customers positively reacting to your value proposition, right? So either you could do it by demonstrating, and when you demonstrate, that's when people react, right? Oh, looks like this is a product that can meet my needs, and you will start gaining some traction. So the traction is really the word of mouth, as we say, right? That when for example others saw this nexon-ev, and he comes up to me and, Jitendra, I saw this is like, it's really a great product, and there's so on and so forth. So just by the word of mouth, he's able to influence me. If you remember the video we saw on the S curve, the early adopters and the late majority, yeah, these people, they get heavily influenced by the word of mouth. So that's really the product market fit, that are you able to get attraction? So before you invest so much money, you have to test that, is there a product market? How do you test? Very simple. You could do demonstrations. You could give products for trials, so that to see if there's a word of mouth there. You could put your product on platforms like Kickstarter or something, where people see and sort of express their opinions to buy, for example. That, and once you have got a good response on that, you can say, hey, look, this product I think fits a market. How you have done it is by looking at all the gaps. And there's a saying that goes that there could be a gap in the market, but there may not be a market in the gap. So this is the fitment that really figures out that there may be no market in a gap, and hence you don't have to address those gaps sometimes, because very less people are going to buy your product for that, because you bridged that gap. You look at what vast majority. That's why investors drop down a lot of startup products, because they'll be like, hey, it doesn't address the mass problem. It addresses a small gap, and that there's no market over there. So sorry, you don't get money for this. So this is how you sort of go from a problem solution to a product market. The third, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, is the business model fit, which is that will you be able to scale it and make money on this? Will you be able to commercialize this product? That is the third fitment, which is a business model fit. So this is really a three-step fitment check. Once you've done customer profiling, value map, you look for problem solution, look for product market, look for business model. But we don't know yet that how do we do a business model. So that's our next step, that how do you, we know how do we do 1 and 2, but how do we make a business model first? So I got this video from the Strategizer, which is the real company that have built this model. So it's great to learn directly from them. I'll play a video. All right, let me know when the audio works.
An organization's business model can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, the channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas, a tool that helps you map, discuss, design, and invent new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and paying customers. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. The channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. The customer relationships outline the type of relationship you're establishing with your customers. The revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing mechanisms your business model is capturing value. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. The key activities show which things you really need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor will you perform all key activities. Then once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. So with the business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the most senior executives.
Great. Hope you like that. So this is, if someone asks me what is really the key message out of the business model canvas tool of innovation is that it helps you look at the big picture. Something that we sometimes are so much focused on only our product, only our solution. This tool helps us look at that broader picture, that, hey, look, your tool or your value proposition is just one block in this set of 9 blocks. Understanding equally your customer segments, understanding the partnerships that your company will have, who will supply to you, what are your cost structures, how will you, what are your channels, how will you reach out to your customers, how will you deliver your products. These are so many other concepts that come into this big picture, and the business model canvas just helps you do that. So this is really so powerful as you, as budding entrepreneurs, you're looking at launching your products in the market, is do this exercise of what is your business model and put it on this such a canvas or a tool. It really helps you understand the big picture. Here is one that I picked up from EV. Electrical battery swap business. So far, and this is a lot that you might have heard as well about, that is the basic mental model of charging is you take your vehicle to a place, put a charging socket, wait for a couple of hours, minutes, and then unplug and drive out. So that's a mental model of charging, just because that's how we have been refueling our cars, right? We go to a place and the person fills up the car, and that's how it has been. So that's how the mental models bias our innovations. That's not good. A new way of thinking about this was that, hey, you don't actually go and hook something and charge your existing battery, but you just swap it. You bring it up, go to a place where and when you put it into that box of battery, it exactly tells you what's the age of the battery, what's the thing. And then for a similar age but 100% charged battery, you get a battery from that inventory, and then you just plug it. If you have a new battery, you get a new battery in swap. If you have an old battery, you get an old battery in swap. So this was a sort of a business model that was proposed by some researchers. That but look, there are some very interesting key challenges in, well, how do you know the age of a battery? Just by putting it somewhere, connecting it somewhere, how do you know the age, and so on and so forth. So what do you see in they've done in this research paper is proposed a business model exactly for swapping batteries. So how do you go about this is really, first you look at customer segments. What kind of customers is this business targeting? So it's targeting commercial vehicles for transportation, shipping, and airplane business. High income society, so people who can spend money. That means it's going to be expensive most likely. And swap batteries followers, there's probably a group that they have. So these are the customer segments they are targeting. The second thing that you look at is your value map, that for these customers, what values are you creating? So what you're saying, hey, look, I'm a best-in-class fully electric vehicle supplier, advanced electric vehicle swap. I'm providing the technology and little business competition because there are no players doing battery swap, right? Almost zero. So that's what it is. How will you reach out to people? Where will they capture value? That's a channel. So there's a swap battery area. There's some online store that you can book and all that stuff. What relationships will you have? So you're going to engage people online. You're going to provide discounts. You're going to provide battery warranty and so on and so forth. Then who are going to be your key partners? As you will deliver this, would you partner with government? Yes, because probably there are regulations for the chemicals and all that you use in your batteries. So you're probably going to have some partnerships there. Key activities. What do you do to create value? That's your key activities. So you're going to have some manufacturing, some maybe maintenance, sales and marketing as well. Key resources. What is it that your customers are really looking at for you? So how do you differentiate yourself? Again, most of these key activities and key resources are the things that you do better than your competition. Remember, it's not okay. Most of the business models, they talk about the same things that you do, and that will not create a differentiator. That will tell you, a red flag that your business model has no way to differentiate yourself. So always look at things that your key resources, there's probably going to be 10 more, but you only talk about what is different than the customer, than the competition. What are your cost structures? How are you spending money in the company? What kind of costs do you have? Labor, internal interest expenses if you've taken a loan, if you're funded, and so on and so forth. And very important is the revenue streams. How will you make money? How will the customer pay to you? And this is where I was saying, right, that your revenue streams, maybe only one of the revenue streams is through customers. You can have multiple revenue streams. Maybe some of this data you could be selling to car companies, that which sort of models or brands swap the battery the most. Maybe you could sell that data. That could be a revenue stream. You could put you could use the pods, the charging pod, sorry, not the charging pods, the battery swap stations as places for advertisement for maybe used cars and so on and so forth. So some people want to buy, they come and anyways they are swapping batteries. What if they look at new cars that are there, or used cars that are there in that space? So that could be another revenue stream. So these are ways that you look at the big picture. The business model canvas helps you look at that big picture. That's the sort of key takeaway from this tool as we have learned about it. And as we sort of reach to the conclusion, I wanted to talk about what are some key takeaways that we had from the session, and then we will drop for Q&A last 10 minutes. So we started with ambidextrous organization. We said that is the only way of structuring yourself, that you can balance exploitation and exploration, right? Both the things, very important. Both the things are to be done. Most innovation strategies are unsuccessful because of the org structure. So as you become those leaders, keep that in mind, that not all the structures help you do everything that you want to do. Understanding customer profile is the key thing when you talk about defining value for your product and looking for the fitment. Jobs to be done, pains and gains. These are the three things. You do them really well, your chances of success increase twofold. Finding fitment at all the three levels: problem, solution, product, market, and business model. So do your business model really well. This tool is not just a document of business model. Don't look at this as a document. Look at this as an analysis tool. So when you've done this well, then you basically start asking questions. What is it that my competition is doing better than me? What are some of the channels that I'm going to use that our competitor is not able to use, right? So someone is, for example, doing only online. What can I do different so that I can get more customers? It becomes a tool to ask questions on strategies and build strategies. That's why it's so powerful. So this is it. I want to leave this session with a message that the org structures and so far actually most of the frameworks that we saw about innovation, they are not silver bullets to success. They are going to give you lenses, eyes to look at innovation and increase your chances of being successful. So thank you once again to especially the faculty members here. You are creating the future of India by inspiring entrepreneurship, and I'm very hopeful that with this AICTE ATAL FTP program, you've gained good enough of knowledge that you would be able to inspire people to look into EV space.
Thank you, Mr. Jitendra sir. So it was a very informative session, and many of us, including research scholars, are less into the business aspect of any technology. And this session is an eye-opener for all of us, how you can successfully start a venture of EV and proceed it with innovation. So I myself enjoyed a lot throughout the session. Thank you very much for your interesting polls and the communication and what you had with us. It's very interesting. Thank you very much, sir. So now we will move on to Q&A session.
Sure. Yeah.
Any specific questions on this session? Please, participants, you can ask. You can unmute yourself. If possible, you can switch on the video and you can ask.
The first one always takes time, Adarsh.
Yes.
Then you will have a flow of questions.
Yes.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir, please.
Sir, I have a question regarding the battery repairment instead of replacement. Is there any possibility for that? Because now what is happening is once the battery is gone out of order, so you have to simply replace it. But is there any technology we have to repair it and service it back? So that may reduce the cost of the customer basically. So that type, is there any innovations have been done? I don't know. That's what.
Yeah, that's a very good thought, Anandram, and I really appreciate you thinking in that direction. That as the mass segment adopts EVs, replacing the battery could be very expensive, and one of the differentiators that you could generate is by having a business that helps you maintain these batteries, healthy repairs, maintenance, and so on. So yeah, this seems to be a good, a bright area I see as a business opportunity. You could also look at what could be that timeline by doing a bit of that S-curve thing, that what could be the right 3 or 4 years band when you see the adoption going very high, because that's when the demand of maintenance will also increase, definitely. So that could be one way to figure out. If you ask me, there is also a good scope that the incumbents, that means the firms that are doing these EVs, the OEMs, they themselves could include that as a part of their general servicing, which means maintenance of the batteries as well. They might bring it. Again, I have no idea as to if does it make sense for them, economically, and if some firms do it, I think customers will prefer those firms. So it might happen that they could create a competitive differentiation just by this idea. So there are chances. Yep.
Yes, but that's one more addition I am thinking of. So for example, if I'm using the lead acid battery as we did in the earlier days, so sealed lead acid batteries, we don't have any option, we have to remove it. So for example, if I'm using a 48 ampere, 48 volts with 20 Ah battery, assume it, for running my two-wheeler. So I require 4 set of batteries. So if one of the battery has gone bad, all the 4 batteries require the replacement. That is one problem I have faced in my system. And at the same time, when I have switched over to the lithium ion batteries. So again, there will be lithium cells of various packs will be available depending upon your requirement of the ampere hour rating, etc. And what I observed is, so in case if of course with respect to the lithium ion battery, some advancement technology is available, because we have got battery maintenance circuit is available, which can take care of each and every cell charging as well as discharging in a proper way. So that is one advantage we have. Apart from that, so there is a point that if you have the entire, if the range has gone down, so it is possible for us to replace a single cell if it is that type of arrangement is available. Then the replacement becomes very easy, such that cost get reduces and other cells can work with its own way, and that we can afford it. That type of arrangement we have to think of, I feel.
Yeah, indeed. It's really great. See, from your experience itself, you have listed so many customer pain points as you do your job in a vehicle. You've listed so many pain points, and I'm sure with the time to come, a lot of people who have adopted electric vehicles, would be able to share such kind of pain points as well. And that's where really the opportunities exist. That if an entrepreneur sitting here today, listens to these customer pain points and is able to design. Look, I am a very novice in electrical battery space, but if there are ways that exist that, just like you said, replacing individual cells, if we can make it possible so that the maintenance becomes so easy, very less clumsy, no extra weight and all. So definitely these are some great opportunities, I would say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Yes, any other query, participants?
Hello.
Yes, sir, please. Sir, please, you can speak.
You're on mute, Dr. Shankar, I think.
Please unmute yourself and speak, sir. Okay. Yeah. In the meantime, Jitendra sir, I have one query regarding the S curve. So this digital burst, what has happened in the last 15 years, let's say the invent of this social media networks, and so is it going to affect the slope of the curve, or will it follow the same trend what it followed 100 years back, when there was no communication channel between people from around the world? So
yes, Adarsh, I strongly believe that it will, and if you see it has been affecting as well as we speak, and most of it is because the influence has become, it has become so easy for people to influence others with this digital burst, that the adoption curves are going to be very steep. So once something is like hits the market, and people start saying good things about it, they spread so fast that influence people like you and I can get very easily influenced and actually adopt that new technology. So you bring in a very good point, that one of the big differentiation between why entrepreneurship was not so attractive earlier and why is it attractive now is exactly this digital burst, because it makes your job much easy for you to spread the word, to communicate to people, and that definitely increases your chances of success.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks.
So any other participant, if you have any specific query, please ask.
So there's a question on the chat, Adarsh. I'll take that.
Yes, please.
What is the use cases of 5G or AI with EVs? Yes. Okay, so maybe I'll talk about the AI. 5G, I am very novice in that tech. I really have no idea how much it can be helpful. But yeah, AI is a very interesting space, and I think combining two interesting spaces, AI and EVs, is like amazing. And very recently, when I was preparing for this session, I came across a car that is being advertised in Indian market, MG Ester. If you've heard, right, it is being marketed a lot these days. I think it hasn't been launched yet, but and it is claimed to be having a level 2 autonomous driving system, and other principles that heavily rely on AI as well. So this was an interesting thing, and I was thinking about when we write softwares for aircraft, aircraft industry, in my days of Honeywell, the regulations are so strict that each piece of code kind of gets scrutinized three or four times by your peers, and it gets certified actually that it's a level C, level B, or a level A software. It gets certified as well, because you are writing a software which is capable of either killing people or saving people as well in difficult situations. I think EVs, as the AI penetrates into EV space, I think this would be one of the big things that would come. Autonomous driving is such an interesting use case, right? And I think the organizations like AICTE, for example, can influence, or probably are influencing, the government a lot on coming up with regulations that certify such vehicles in Indian market. Because I know it's a level 2 autonomous, so it's not like you're leaving your steering and the car is driving in itself. But imagine if you're influenced by something that this car is suggesting you, and you're trying that level 2 autonomous driving, and you hit someone. What could be worse than that? So so there are 2-3 use cases that come very thing. I mean, the autonomous driving AI is heavily being used for autonomous driving, level 1, level 2, both ways. I think the other thing is the system predictability and maintenance of failures in the system, right? Where patterns are being analyzed every second. That is there an anomaly in the electrical system? Is there an anomaly in the battery? AI can be heavily used to figure that out. It is heavily being used in aerospace industry. If you see, aircraft engines have this sort of mechanism, and I'm sure EVs can bring in that as well. Drones, I feel, is like AI has heavily penetrated already into drones with image processing and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting penetration. I'm only worried about that. What if the technology pace is so high that the regulations and compliance is not able to catch up? Then we could be creating very dangerous systems on road. But that's just me being skeptical.
Yeah. So that is right in case of, I think, drones and all. The policies are framing pretty quickly in the recent times. So I think even the policies are, the pace of framing policies are also improving. With minimum time, they are bringing up the policies. All right. Rituraj, I think Jitendra sir answered your question.
Very, very good question, Ritu. Thank you for asking.
Yes. Okay, participants, we will end this session now. So in the afternoon, 2:30, we will meet for the next session by Dr. Ashok B. He is Associate Professor working on electric vehicles from Mangalore Institute of Technology, Vellore. So I would like to thank Mr. Jitendra Yadav for the wonderful session from the morning. So I hope to continue this conversation forward when we organize a next level FDP on electric vehicles. We can shed more light on the business aspects as well. Right. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for
Thank you, everyone, and very, very engaging audience. I loved interacting with you all. Thank you so much.
Good. Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you very much.